Russia has around 140, but China is a rising power that is much, much, much more powerful than Russia. To start, China has 1.4 billion people. Russia has around 140 million people. That is, China's population is 10 times larger than Russia's. Economically, China has the world's largest economy when you measure its GDP at purchasing power parity. It represents around 19% of the entire world economy, whereas the United States is less than 15% of the world economy. Now, Russia is a major economy, but it's only about 3.5% of the global economy. That means that China's economy is roughly 6 times larger than Russia's economy. Russia's economy is similar in size to the economy of Indonesia or Brazil. China is at a whole different level. And when it comes to manufacturing production, there is no comparison. China is by far the world's leading manufacturing power. It represents 31% of global manufacturing value added. The US is 16%. Russia is 1.8%. So Russia's manufacturing output is a bit under Mexico's and a bit larger than that of Italy or France. And when it comes to technology, China is also the world's leader. If you read the documents produced by hawkish Western anti-China think tanks, they all warn of China's technological dominance. For instance, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute is a very hawkish anti-China think tank that is backed by the Australian military, funded by the Australian government and by the US government. And they churn out anti-China reports. And in one of their recent reports, they warned that China is leading in 57 out of 64 critical technologies, roughly 90% of the world's critical technologies. And in the past 20 years, China has made enormous progress. Originally, 20 years ago, China was leading in just 3 out of 64 critical technologies. Today, China is leading in 57 out of 64. Their report noted that China now produces more scientific publications. It publishes more scientific articles in academic journals than any other country. It overtook the United States. And engineers and scientists in China apply for more patents than any other country by far. The United States has been in significant decline. And China also proposes a systemic challenge to US-led capitalism, because China has a socialist system, whereas the US has a neoliberal capitalist system, which has clearly been in decline with extreme and growing inequality and economic instability and political instability, whereas China continues to grow at 5% per year, and China is making enormous progress in advanced technologies and manufacturing. We've seen this recently with Chinese companies like DeepSeek making massive breakthroughs in artificial intelligence technology. So, Russia today has a capitalist system. It's not the former Soviet Union. They're not trying to challenge US-led capitalism, whereas China is providing an actual alternative. Russia doesn't provide an alternative. China does, which is why the US, and especially oligarchs in Silicon Valley and on Wall Street, they see China as a major threat, because China is the only country on earth that actually has alternatives, competitors to big tech corporations in Silicon Valley. If you travel around the world, most of the world uses Google and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Gmail. China's the only large country that actually has an alternative. It has its own tech companies that are challenging US monopolies, which is why the US government is trying to ban them. It's why the US is trying to ban TikTok. It tried to ban Huawei and put sanctions and restrictions on Huawei. It is now trying to ban DeepSeek, the Chinese AI company. So this is why the United States sees China as such a big threat to its global dominance. I'm not trying to say that Russia is weak and insignificant. That's not what I'm saying. Russia is a major military power. As we've seen in Ukraine, Russia has essentially defeated NATO. And the fact that the United States did not even invite Ukraine to the talks between Russia and the US is a sign that this was not a war simply between Russia and Ukraine. It was a war between Russia and NATO led by the United States. So Trump says, yeah, we're going to cut out the middleman and have direct talks between Russia and the US. So clearly, Russia is a major military power. As I mentioned, Russia is a significant economic power. It is a major producer of some of the most important primary commodities in the world: oil, gas, many critical minerals, military technology, weapons. But being realistic, China is significantly more influential and significantly more powerful than Russia, which is why the US is trying to divide Russia from China.